Hello, everybody. It's November 16th, 2022, and I'm back from my holidays after 3 weeks. I want to say thank you to Rodrigo for covering me, Silvia and Charles. I know it was a little bit tough to get all together, but thank you for giving me this time off.
We missed you a lot, Stevan. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you. So, I would say feute to our Irish friends. Our topic today is humanity progressing? So this is a good question we needed to brainstorming here. And thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for being here. So good evening, Miss Gibbons. How are you?
Good evening. I'm very well. Things are going, within the limitation of the many difficulties that come across our lives. But thank goodness, looking forward and looking forward to today as well. This theme is very important for the moment that we are going through. That's very easy to become despondent. So it'd be nice to be able to talk and to see the lessons that the Spirit left us. Boa tarde, boa noite, boa tarde a todos. Prazer estar com vocês uma vez mais, falando sobre um tema importante do momento que nós estamos passando. E vai ser muito bom ver as informações que os espíritos nos deixaram para o nosso entendimento, para criar um mundo melhor. Boa noite, bem-vindos.
Bonsoir, Charles.
Bonsoir Steven, bonsoir Silvia, bonjour, bonsoir à tous. Très heureux d'être à nouveau parmi vous ce soir et avec Steven, qui nous a manqué, pour parler de ce thème, la loi du progrès. Des fois, on ne dirait pas, mais le monde progresse malgré tout. Hello everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Very happy to be here again with you today or this evening, in order to talk about this progress, which is humanity progressing, which is sometimes you can question, is it really progressing or not? Yes, definitively it is, and we will try to explain you.
Yeah, great. Great, wonderful. So, in order to start, let me put our video today. And there we go. Everybody can see my screen. Let me remove this logo here. No, I can't. But anyway, let's see the video.
Scientists who claim that the level of violence, nonetheless, has gone down across the world, not just in, the Western countries. So oddly enough, science here seems to be, at least among some researchers, more optimistic than I am. We are heading in the direction of greater humaneness, of greater humanity. I hope that's true.
Yes, there will be less violence. And yes, there is less violence today as opposed to it was 10,000 years ago, where violence was the norm. Okay, so now it is much more diplomacy is the norm. So we get along together. So in the future, it is still going to be even much better, where hopefully in the future there is no more war.
If we look to our past too, I think we can say, even if sometimes we're very negative about nowadays, but life's a lot better than it was 200 years ago, 300 years ago, 1,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago. We're all the beings in this planet will be fundamentally happy. We don't know when that's going to happen. It's probably going to take a big chunk of time, but it will happen. Again, we go back to the idea of God being just and kind and always give us a chance to evolve and grow. So everything is growing and evolving. It's only a matter of time.
I do have a hope that human beings continue to grow and change and evolve. And the violence that's happening, and even the religious motivated violence that's happening now, the world is more peaceful today than it has been in ever, at different levels, at different times, different places, but that as an entirety, the human race is evolving overall, over time.
Okay.
Intorno al 1850 negli Stati Uniti e in Europa.
Okay, so we have this great topic today, and I just try to give some thoughts, some food for thought today, because we live in a world in which sometimes we look elsewhere and we say, okay, are we progressing? Are we evolving? Where am I now? And for this, let me get here my what I prepared for today, because I lost as usual. Okay, here. As well, always, Emmanuel always have a word for this, and allow me to read. It's very short, but we find this reflection here on the book Recados da Vida, dictated by the Spirit Emmanuel, psychographed by Chico Xavier. Double face progress. Undeniably, man has already accomplished wonders in so-called outward progress. He investigates outer space, however, he rarely learns to walk the path of communication with his own neighbor. He recognizes the imperatives of peace and dedicates precious monuments to them, but he is almost always ready to sustain conflicts that end in the terrible shadow of war. He invented the laudable process of illustrating intelligence. However, he still experiences serious difficulties in teaching or sublimating elevation in the areas of feeling. He builds skyscrapers and collective dwellings. However, he habitually ignores how to unite creatures, irrespective of race and creed. He created steel that guarantees the efficiency of construction. However, he experiences great obstacles to maintain the precise continuity of intimate security. He organizes association of various shades to defend community interests. However, loneliness on earth is a growing scourge. He highlights the importance of fraternity and emphasizes human solidarity, but violence continues to advance worldwide. This is the double face of progress among men. On the outside, prodigies of reasoning and eminences of intellectual culture. However, on the inside, it shows the wound of hatred and selfishness that only living the teachings of Jesus Christ will be able to heal. Wonderful. Wonderful. Emmanuel is being Emmanuel. But I'd like to start with Charles, asking Charles what Kardec tried to give us in the Spirit's book on the moral qualities. What's the law of progress? What's the a kind of overview?
Well, okay, let's try. Kardec is clearly stating, with the help of the spirits, of course, that the law of progress is a natural law. So it's a law of nature somehow. It's also called a divine law because everything is progressing. The movie we have seen, the clip we have seen at the beginning of this live is confirming this. When we compare humanity in the prehistoric times, where it was the law of the strongest and a lot of violence, I think the life expectancy was below 30 years and so on. When we look then later, the Egyptians, all these big civilizations who came with a lot of slavery and abuses of all kinds. When you look also the Middle Age, which was also, I mean, a lot of violence, religious violence, and bandits always threatening you had to be with these steel clothes and defending yourself and whatsoever. And even the last century, the 19th century with Kardec, out of the children who were, for instance, born in the middle of the 19th century, you had almost 50% who did not go beyond 2 or 3 years old, were dying very young. And there was a lot of poverty and misery inside the big cities like Paris and so on. Of course, then we see the 20th centuries with some progress and then some huge, terrible wars, the first and the WW1 and WW2, which were terrible. And well, so far we are a kind of a stability, even though from time to time is appearing new wars like we are seeing now in Ukraine, or there are still 80 conflicts with arms throughout the world. So on one side, we can see, yes, indeed, there is a big progress. And the progress is also considerable in technology. Look, you are sitting in Ireland, Silvia is in London, I'm in France, and the people who are hearing us are wherever around the world. So it's something that was not possible to imagine even in fiction 50 years or 100 years ago. So the progress is clearly all what we see, it's law of nature. What is happening is also this law of progress. The progress is the first objective finality for the rebirth from our life. What are we? Why are we incarnated here on earth? It's to progress. That's the goal of the life, is to become a little bit better, to learn a little bit more, grow in intelligence, and to become a little bit better means improve also morally. This is the ultimate goal of the life, of the incarnation, of what we are doing here right now. Okay, our objective is tomorrow to be a little bit better, work today so that tomorrow we are a little bit better than what we are today, knowing that today we are already a little bit better than we were yesterday, and so on. So everything progress, even the material things, the solar systems and so on, in the astronomy. We see also the progress on the spiritual side, like our spirits. What we learn also is that we are being created at the beginning simple and ignorant. Ignorant means without knowledge. We all started like this. And the prehistoric man, Neanderthal or Cro-Magnon, was exactly the stereotype of this simple without knowledge, okay? And the knowledge then was growing through different steps to reach what we are today. So it would be a little bit longer to explain how, with all this transmigration and the Adamic race and so on. But it's clearly we progress. And we also in our incarnation, today I'm Charles. Yesterday I don't know who I was. I don't even know more details about that. Why? Because I know that in my past life I was worse than what I am today, and I probably did a lot of bads and mistakes. So let that there. It's good like this to have it forgotten, knowing that the more we go back, the worse we were. Okay. And also the creation of God is continuous. So we have continuously spirits which are arriving here on earth. And this is also explaining, as Leon Denis is telling very clearly, why the progress seems so slow. Individually, we are reasonably progressing. We have some examples also given. You talked about Emmanuel, Stevan. He made some books like 2,000 years ago and 50 years after Ave Christ, Renouncement, and so on, which show how he, as a spirit, has grown over a millennium or so to reach the status today to be a spiritual mentor of someone like Chico Xavier. So we are all progressing, following this same track, according to our efforts, to our will. So some are doing more efforts and are growing quicker. Some are doing less efforts and are growing slower. We never regress. We always, either we stay stationary or we grow. And this is then illustrating, demonstrating this law of nature. There are two kinds of progress, as I already mentioned. There is the intellectual progress, which generally goes quite fast. And there is another one, which is also the moral progress, ethical progress, to progress in goodness. And that one is sometimes a little bit slower, okay? And you have a lot of people which are brilliant, very intelligent, but are not so kind, are not charitable, are people which use their intelligence for their own profit, to dominate, explore their neighbors and so on. And this we see a lot. But what the spirits are always also selling is that this intellectual progress is also not immediately, but with the time leading to the moral progress. And how? This is the spiritist body of knowledge coming to teach us we have a soul. This soul is immortal. When we die, the soul is freeing from the physical body. So the death is not we go to nothing and there is nothing. So let's the materialistic view, as we always illustrate during these lives, where okay, I have only one life, so I have really to make use maximum profit out of it, and even if I go over the others, don't respect the others, the good is that I have a maximum of profit from this unique life. Spiritist teaching intellectually is now demonstrating by the facts that we have a soul, that the soul survives to the death, and is also giving us some indication about the status of the soul depending on what we did here on earth. So this is clearly showing that these people which are materialistic and who made a lot of bad things, when they reach the spiritual world, they are in a very difficult shape. You can see in our solar pictures, André Louis was not that bad, yet he spent some time in a difficult situation there. So when we get this from with our intelligence, this will push us to say, hey, if it's really like this, and now I'm convinced it is like this because it's proven by the facts, then I would more take care to become a better person, to avoid this bad situation, the day which will come for sure with 100% probability that we have to go back to the spiritual world. And this is an illustration how the intellectual progress with the time is pushing to the moral progress. Okay. And we can also make the reasoning, what is the biggest hurdle, the biggest obstacle for our progress? But it is selfishness and pride. Okay, this is directly coming from this materialistic view of the things of the world. And selfishness and pride is really what is blocking us the more for our progress. Progress to what? Well, progress to happiness, progress to better worlds than the earth, and so on. Okay, so these are the two biggest monsters, the biggest mountains or obstacles that we really have to fight daily to change the pride into humility, and to change the selfishness into charity. And doing this, then we really make a quantum jump in our progress. Okay, and so this comes and more incessantly throughout the whole spiritist body of knowledge, this selfishness and pride, which are really the biggest factors making us unhappy. And it's not new, because Jesus told that already in the Sermon of the Mount, for instance. He's clearly saying exactly the same things, showing that in the future life, the more we have been here, solving our problems, paying our debts, and doing everything we can for having a good conscience, but then when we come to the other side, really, we receive the award, this satisfaction. Okay, so where are we today? Still a lot of materialistic progress, material progress. We have a lot of this technology we just talked about. We have electric cars, we have solar energy, we have so many wonderful things. Yet, we still have a big progress to do, which is the one to make such that on this earth will reign peace, that nobody will miss what is indispensable for the life, food, a home, a better, spreading of the richness, not having it concentrated as it is today. So this progress is yet still to be done. And I think we get some help for this. As we told already, the pandemic, for instance, a lot of people came and make questions. Hey, I was not on the right track. This will not lead me to happiness. What am I doing here like this? So a lot of people changed after the pandemic. And today we have other factors. We are seeing, for instance, the COP. I don't know if it's 27 or 26. I forgot it, which is in Egypt, in Sharm el-Sheikh, and showing clearly that our planet is burning, that the resources of our planet are not infinite but limited, that we will all have to tighten a little bit more our belts, get rid of a lot of superfluous things, and have a more sustainable way of life. So the fact that the resources of the earth are limited, the fact that what we have already done over the last 2 centuries, it's not, 2 centuries over, we talked about 10,000 years ago for prehistoric times. 2 centuries is nothing compared with 10,000 years ago, and is even nothing towards the 4 billion years that our solar system and our planet is existing. In 2 centuries, we just consumed a big part of the natural resources. So we see the consequences into the carbon which is in the atmosphere, the greenhouse effect, the global warming, a lot more typhoons here and there, and some regions of the world where it's so hot that the human being cannot survive anymore. So we see a lot. There are a lot of things which are coming and which will push us to again exercise our intelligence in order to have more sustainable way of life, and also to go more in these directions which is fraternity, charity, because with selfishness and pride, with wars, with violence, we will not solve the problem. We will not survive ourselves. So the only way, sustainable way, is to reach also, last but not least, this moral progress. I will stop here because maybe I talked too much already, and hoping I have answered to your question.
Thank you, Charles. Thank you. So to say good evening to Luis Cunha Castro. And Luis wrote, I believe that in the coming decades, intellectual and emotional intelligence will match. Children who are being born are more evolved.
Exactly. Yes. And you know, we have the when you are recruited by a company, they are measuring your IQ, your intelligence. But today, this is not anymore the primary criteria. There are other criteria like the EQ, emotional intelligence. And what is it? Are you capable of controlling your emotions? Are you capable to work in a team? Are you capable to lead a team? Not only manage, but lead. So stay with the team and motivate your team members to reach the objective. And today, even we are talking about spiritual intelligence. So we are really entering now in this new paradigm. In spiritual intelligence, what is it? Are you charitable? Are you working first for the team and not for yourself? And this is now getting more and more the highest important criteria when people are recruiting someone in a company. So Louis is really very right. This is also demonstrating how this progress now is accelerating in these last years or decades towards this moral or spiritual progress.
Great. Thank you, Charles. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. So now it's the easiest question to Miss Gibbons. Yeah. My dear, we mentioned here a lot about moral progress, intellectual progress. And it's clear for us they don't walk hand by hand.
No.
But what is missing here? What need to be done to make them walk hand by hand?
Wow. I will give you a quote from the Spirit's book when he asks what moral progress for intellectual progress. And the answer the Spirits gave was, it is a consequence of the latter, but it does not always follow it immediately. So intellectual progress helps man to understand good and evil. The development of free will follows the development of intelligence and increases the responsibility of human action. I think this, in a way, it's exactly what, because I think Charles made the point as well that intellectual progress goes quicker. Absolutely. And I think we've seen that in the last 2 centuries, most especially towards the middle of the 19th century to the 20th century, humanity progressed intellectually more than it probably progressed all the way back from the beginning of humanity on Earth. The progress has been very, very quick. But also, I think, especially in the last 50 years or so, we have progressed more than humanity has progressed from the beginning. Now we have things that even 4 years ago, we did have internet connection, but now is a way of life. I think I can't think of anybody who cannot communicate now, either on their phones or like we are now, like Charles pointed out, we're in 3 different countries, completely far away from us, from each other, and yet we're talking together, and many people are doing the same. And this is what, 2-3 years since we had the problem with the lockdown and with the COVID, that we started, this developed so much more and is so much easier. And I've been in England for quite a while. I've been living here for a long time. And when I came to England, when I wanted to call Brazil, I still needed to have a trunk call. They called a trunk call. I had to call the operator to connect me to Brazil. And I had to wait sometimes 2-3 hours for them to connect. And then I remember when, sort of in the mid-70s, and you could just dial directly, to wherever you wanted to call. But not everywhere you could, because they didn't have access to. But it was already such a progress. And now we're talking to each other, FaceTime at the very moment. And the progress is unbelievable. Even 20 years ago, we didn't have that technology. So if we see that we are progressing, and in everything, in machinery, and engineering, the sciences, medicine, a lot of people said, oh, the vaccine for COVID, they developed it in 9 months, a year. Whereas before you had to take 10, 15 years to develop a vaccine. But because of the increasing technology, and I think one point that Charles said as well, talking about selfishness and things, one of the things that facilitated as well, they have finding the vaccine for COVID, even though all the problems that came with it, but people collaborated. Different countries, different laboratories were cooperating with each other, so we could develop a vaccine. We have now been receiving pictures from the Webb telescope, James Webb telescope, that's photographing the beginning of the universe. And I think today NASA sent a craft to Artemis, to the moon. They're going back to the moon. And so this is progress. I mean, we've seen the development of it everywhere. At the same time, and I think people look around and say, we have a lot of difficulties. There's something like here in London, I'm sure in other places as well, when you go to any supermarket, even a place called the Poundland, which is not a Poundland anymore. But
not anymore.
Yes, you have the other prices, but you have a basket to buy things, to give food to people. We have food banks now that to help people, because there are so many people having terrible difficulties, even to buy food. So, you have those things. And we have a dreadful war in the Ukraine and in Yemen and in Syria and Afghanistan and Iraq and many places in Africa. There is a lot of poverty everywhere. And I think this is... it's easy to look at this and become very despondent, because in many ways things are progressing. Mobile phones, like even 20, I remember mobile phones, and you had used to be like a huge, like a brick, and then you had to pull the aerial, they made it smaller, but you had to put this huge aerial. And now, telephones is in the arm. I have a friend, she's got this watch, and she touches the watch everywhere she answers. She does literally everything with her arm, with her wrist. And so there is this progress, and we look around and we never seen so many people homeless. We have never, and we're not talking about poor countries. We're talking about, cities like Paris and London, which, are great places of financial, probably financial centers of the world. And people are living in the streets. And it's so many now problems with schools, hospitals, even the national health, that honestly, it's a gift from God, the national health in England. But now it's becoming difficult as well to get an appointment with the doctor because money seems to have disappeared. And we think, oh, how can we have been progressing when people are not progressing with it? Some people are, and others, there seems to be more and more being left behind. And I think that's what the point about the technology sometimes become very cold, and the emphasis in how much profit can you get out of something. And more human beings are passed in second place. They are being left behind if they don't have the possibility. But even studies now is very difficult. Also, there's been a change in society, because before, a number of people would go to universities, those who could afford or had the ability to. But a lot of people would go to training courses, engineering. People would learn to be plumbers, electricians. Also, now everybody wants to go to university. So you see, part of this, and it's not wrong, don't misunderstand me. It's important for people to have education, but also there are a lot of technical skills that no one wants to do anymore. Everybody wants to go to administration or whatever it is, and it becomes difficult as well. It's difficult to find work in that middle ground where a lot of people before used to go. And they have apprenticeships in companies, in factories and everything. This, which almost, I remember here in England, anyway, they used to have the university polytechnics where people had a good education, but they were trained to do a certain work. So there is this change as well. And it's important for people to learn, to study too.
Yeah,
But
so Switzerland has the same project.
Exactly. And I think it's everywhere. I think, Charles probably have the same experience in France. It's like everybody wants to go up to be the boss, and no one wants to do the work, because they feel diminished, whatever it is. Because it is idea that you have to be the CEO to be important. And I think we lost track of what is important, because I think Emmanuel says in one of his messages that you are where you have to be, and everything is important. So, you think, oh, you see someone sweeping the street. If I ever meet anybody, I always have hello, say hello, talk, because they are doing a very important work. Because when there is no one to sweep the streets, you walk now, especially with the leaves falling down, you fall down because it's so slippery, it's dirty. They're doing a very, very important work. And I think we need, as a species, to believe that, yes, you need CEOs of big companies, but then you need to have the ones who value the people who do the work, because if they are not there to do the cleaning, hospitals, you have the doctors who have the operations, but if you don't have the people who do the cleaning, the doctor would have to work in very dirt situation, and the people would die with the infections and everything. I think, we need to, I think this question, I think Charles mentioned, selfishness. He says that, in many ways we look towards ourselves. And I think when we grow and we started walking together, seeing everyone, valuing everyone, I think then we walk together, intellectual development and moral as well. I think that there was one thing in this first book that says, progress is a living force. No one can impede it. No one, they may create difficulties, problems, but this is a law that progress, no one is a living force. No one can stop it. Maybe they can hold a bit, but never, ever, ever stop. And he also, he says here that humanity progress through the progress of individuals who gradually progress and become enlightened, and others will come with them. And I think another point that Charles said, that we are created simple in ignorant, would mean that we had no knowledge, and the knowledge we acquire ourselves through our efforts, through our lives, and everything. And I think there must be, for this progress to grow, mankind needs to be more aware of himself, know who he is, what he wants to go. Because I remember hearing it once. Someone said, well, the problem with people is that everybody don't know what they want to go, but they want to get there very fast. And I think that, this is sort of going on now. And we don't value people if they don't do a superior work, or we don't value ourselves if we're doing it. Sometimes people are almost ashamed to say, oh, I work as a waitress, serving food to people, or I take care of children. Can you imagine a better profession, a more responsible profession than to help children to progress and grow? And sometimes they feel embarrassed because oh my God, I don't have a PhD on this, but they do so much training. It's unbelievable the amount of training they have to do. And I think we need to, as a society, as a race, we need to start valuing each other. Because also, I think a lot of people think to be a CNO, but these people have no life. They work all the hours that God gives. They have a very little family life. They have a very little joy, and they have a lot of responsibility. And so they earn quite a lot of money, but they have the weight of responsibility that maybe, if you're just sweeping the floor, you don't. You can go home and go to sleep. So we have to value everyone where they are and learn ourselves to better ourselves. If we see something in other people that we don't like, it's a problem with us. We have that problem, and we're looking to somebody else and oh, look at that person, they do that. If we stop, we think, oh yeah, I do that. That's why I don't like seeing it. And start changing ourselves, valuing ourselves. Jesus said, love yourself and love your neighbor as yourself. So we have to start from ourselves. And I think to love yourself means to respect who we are, respect our abilities, try to improve on them. And then we can respect others, we can help others. And if everyone moves in that direction and trying to, we cannot progress alone. We need someone. If you may have the greatest job in the planet. Say for instance, an astronaut, they're going to space, they're going to be in the moon, the first man in the moon. But if you think the number of people who are working, from the one that was putting the screws in the spacecraft to doing things, the number of thousands and thousands of people were there so Neil Armstrong could get his foot in the moon. And I think that's what sometimes we forget, that we needed to progress, but first of all we needed to respect ourselves, and we needed to really value who we are. And in doing that, we can value others. And I think that's when we'll be able to achieve this too. So intellectual progress, moral progress will be, and our planet will be beautiful and wonderful to be again. So sorry, I philosophized a lot, but maybe I went away from the question. But I think we needed to see certain points.
No, it's perfect. It's perfect because we see all these things, we see iPhones, watch, cars, all these things. And unfortunately, as you know, I was talking to Charles before we get online. I was on holidays in Brazil, and we cannot walk 2 blocks in São Paulo, at least São Paulo. You cannot walk 2 blocks without being interrupted by someone asking for money to eat. So this make us to think perhaps we needed to lose the benefits we have now in order to give value to them. And sometimes it's better do our part. As Charlie said, pride and selfishness are the worst weapons against progress. So let's be less prideful. Let's be less shelfness. Shelfness. What do you think, Charles?
Yes, and Stevan, we again can see we are on the right track, because the awareness now is more and more that if we want to survive on the earth, because there are some threats that the whole humanity will disappear. If we want to survive on the earth, we have to go to a more sustainable attitude, way of life, simplify, and so on. The awareness is here, and this is how the intelligence, once we, or the big part of the humanity, will understand this, of course, we want to survive, we want that our kids survive. We need maybe to come back here to reincarnate as the kids of our kids of our kids, and so on. So all these greenhouse effects, this global warming and so on, we think, okay, I'm now in the club of the six, so I will in a decade or two go back to there. No, I will have to reincarnate here again and take the consequences of all what we have overconsumed, overdone, and so on. And the understanding of this is really pushing hard us to go towards this fraternity, to act whatever we can in order to stop these wars. In a war, we can see it right now. Everyone is losing. Everyone is losing. And what you told, Stevan, it's also to 750 million people in the world, they do not have the basic necessity of food, of water, of having a home to protect themselves against the cold and whatsoever, the rain and whatsoever. So clearly, I mean, this is just a question of will. If we want to make it, if we take 10% or even 1% of all what is spent for armies and weapons and so on, I'm sure everyone gets a home, everyone gets the necessity to eat. So it's a question of will, and we really have to push by convincing our fellows that there is no other way. The only sustainable way is this one, is get rid of this materialistic view, go to a spiritualistic view, get rid of this selfishness, of this pride. We think we are more than the other. No, we are all equal, all the sons of the created by the same creator. To stop with this selfishness of keeping a lot for me, and whilst my neighbor has not even what is necessary. So this is not sustainable. We cannot continue like that, clearly.
Yeah.
It's a question of survival of ourselves as well, of our children, of whatever.
While we are still looking to our neighbor's car and say, he changed the car again.
Yeah.
So we have a problem.
And there is a lot of information manipulation. Advertisement is a kind of manipulation as well, to push us to buy things that we don't need, and it's terrible what's happening. And we have to go out of this non-sustainable system. The basic principle on which all this has been built, they are not good. They are not sustainable. So everything will collapse sooner or later. I don't want here to make nobody afraid, but this is how, I mean, how do you want to get all these people out of the materialistic point of view and opening them a little bit to the spiritualistic point of view? Spiritualist point of view is just, you see, the material resources of our planet are finishing. So this is God's infinite mercy and providence, which made us like that. And okay, now we spend everything, we wasted everything, and no, it's finished. So what do we do now?
But it's, I think one thing that is very interesting about sustainability and everything. I remember when I was a child, used to go with my mother to the open markets, have in Brazil a lot of open markets in the street. We always took our bags, went to we didn't have a supermarket then, had some, but used to go to the shop to buy the necessities, like the supermarket. And you took your own bags. And if they gave you any bags, were paper. And then afterwards, it started all this plastic, all this giving. And now, they say, oh, they charge you. And, you go to the supermarket and they charge you. And it's quite expensive to buy a bag. But, you just... Okay, you buy the bag, you buy the plastic bag. Instead of the changing the way things are, making paper bags or something, if you can afford to buy a bag every time you go and pay 60p or a pound, you can buy plastic bags. So this has to be changed as well, the way people think. And also, I think there is a lot of political correctness, that you have to behave in a certain way that some people want you to behave. And in doing that, they are forcing people to accept things that, is not what they need to accept, is not what the way they were brought up or something. And this is really bad as well, because it impedes the development of people. I think we should have a society in which we have everyone has the same opportunity. But what people will do with their opportunities, then is up to them to progress for themselves and to change the way they look. Because I remember this scientist, he's from Scotland, and he was saying, people keep saying, oh, you have to save the earth, you have to save the earth, you have to, and he said, I have some news for you. The earth does not need to be saved. In about 1-2 million years, the earth will clear all the carbon, and it will be completely good again. But we don't have the same span of life. So when we are destroying the planet, we are actually destroying ourselves. And it's something we need to see and in a way share the facilities that we have with other people, because we in not sharing the many possibilities that we have, we're losing them. I think that thing in the Bible, in the gospel, it says, to those who much is given, the much to be asked, and those who have much will have more. And that is really important for us to remember, that we need to have the same opportunities for everyone, no matter where they come from, and try to help others. Because if we don't help others, we in the end, we become lost as well when we lose everything we have.
Yes.
But there is this, it's very interesting. Jung has this quote saying that humanity does not progress as a whole. There'll be individuals within society that will progress, and the strength of the unconscious will take them. But there is one question in the Spirit's book that says exactly the same, which is really interesting, because I thought, oh my God, look at this. And I wrote actually, he says, in this first book says, the question 779, he says, does a man contain in himself the force that impels his onward in the path of progress? Or is his progress only the product of instruction? And the answer for the spirits were, man is developed of himself naturally, but all men do not progress at the same rate, nor in the same manner. And it is thus the most advances are made to help forward others through social contact. I find this fascinating that we already had this, and that's it. But we need to have the same opportunities for everyone.
Yes. Equally.
So.
And Charles, equalité.
Exactly. Égalité, yes.
Égalité.
The French, from the revolution, we got the liberté, égalité, fraternité. Means freedom, equality, and fraternity.
But
really Kardec made a good analysis of this. In the posthumous works, he's clearly writing, we should take it the other way around. First, we need the fraternity, because without fraternity, there is no equality. And without equality, there is also no liberty. So, and the society, Silvia, is, what is a society? It's a sum of the individuals which are composing the society.
Exactly.
If we want to change the world, the best way and the quickest way, the most efficient way is let's change ourselves. And then lead by example,
carry the others with
convince the
us.
others by our own example. And once the individuals are getting better, you don't need these rules anymore. We have a lot of things, of laws, of regulations, of speed limits, like for instance. But if everyone is reasonable, you don't need speed limits anymore.
Exactly,
everyone, you can simplify a lot of things. Today, the people think, okay, we need authority and for having the equality imposed to everyone, some communist system or whatever. Other people know we need to give the freedom to everyone, and of course with some other inconvenience. And the people, there is a cold war, one against the other. This is exactly what's happening right now. Because one is thinking that the other one is crazy, and vice versa. No, the solution is in ourselves. This is how we will solve this problem. Exactly, this is how we will, how the humanity and the world is evolving, and this is exactly what will come in the future. This famous world of regeneration that we are so eager that it is coming. We will have to construct it in exactly in this way.
Exactly.
Correct. Well, lesson learned.
Lesson learned.
Let's change our world. Let's change ourselves. And let them call us mad, insane,
Yeah.
You are not the only one, said John Lennon.
Yeah, I'm not the only one. Yes, imagine there's no countries.
Yeah.
Because I think, we say, oh, the world is bad, the world is bad, the world is bad, but we forget that we are part of this world. Exactly. And whatever we do and think and say is creating the spiritual environment around to create wars and everything. So we need to stop the wars with ourselves and send prayers and be more charitable to people. And I think that's the way for the future, because I think one point, very briefly, very quickly, nothing that happens, everything there is a purpose, and God, it allows this to happen. And if you're going through those difficult times that we are going through, is because we need to learn the lessons. And sometimes we don't realize, but we have asked for it, because sometimes we don't learn through love, do we? We need to be pushed. So it's up to us how we learn.
A lot of us learn through pain, no? Like Leon Denis is explaining this very well. And this is what is really stimulating us to learn and
Yeah.
to progress.
Yeah.
But it's not mandatory. Some people are learning only by the
Well,
goodwill, and this is what we are encouraging.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
yeah,
Mind you, and I'm one of those as well, I must say.
but I'm saying is we look after we get worried with intellectual, with moral this, but while we are skipping queues or parking our car in the disability or elder people, we are doing the same thing. That is the same value. Why we are doing this, nothing gonna change.
It's true.
So
And you said about the laws. If you stand in the bus stop near where I do, because there's a very busy road, I'm flabbergasted by the number of people on their mobile phones while they're driving, sending texts, holding the thing with their arms, the wheel with their arms, and texting while they are driving. It's terrifying. And, they can cause a terrible accident
yeah,
and kill
yeah,
people. But, they don't realize that the law needs, so they need to suffer a big penalty to be able to learn. And some of them never will. So,
yes. Okay, my dear friends, 1 hour already.
oof, gosh, it's going too
Yes.
quickly.
So let me go here to the announcements. So this lady here, Silvia Gibbons, I don't know her, but she will give a healing course in the Poole Christian Spiritualist Church in Poole. So our friends from Spiritist Society of Bournemouth are taking care of this registration. So if you're interested, please contact Fabricio, and Fabricio will for sure give a place for this great healing course. We already came to Ireland to give this healing course here twice or 3 times. I don't know how many times she came.
Twice, I think.
And yeah, it was amazing. So please help spread the word on the 3rd of December from 1 o'clock to 5 p.m. Also, every other Tuesday, time to talk with Guilherme Dias and Rafael Caldas, conversations on mediumship. Every Saturday, we do have the online course about the mediums book with Guilherme Dias, Munir Gariba, and Charles. It's 10:30 a.m. UK time. Every other Tuesday, we do have the course, the study of the book No Solar. Here is not an open meeting, but with the passcode and the meeting ID, you can join anytime. And this is it. See, easy peasy. And I want to say thank you, everyone. Thank you, Charles. Thank you, Silvia.
Thank you.
Merci.
Thank you, Herminio, Silveira, Luis Castro. Thank you very much. Thank you, Elsa, as well, for being here with us. I'll see you next Wednesday at 9 o'clock. So
God
thank
willing.
you. Bye bye, my friend.
Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
All the best.
Bye. Have a blessed week.